It's a good bounce back win for us today. I thought we started the game with the right tone on the defensive end, and so that was that was by design for us to get back to our normal.
Just when it felt like the chaos around Team USA and Caitlin Clark had finally settled, a bombshell development tied to NBC has reportedly thrown the coaching staff and the old guard of the WNBA into complete disarray. And this time, it has nothing to do with roster politics or on-court drama. This is about something far bigger. Control over the future of women's basketball. Behind closed doors, sources describe an outright meltdown as the very outcome the establishment worked so hard to avoid is unfolding anyway, and it's being powered by the flood of money now pouring into the league. They tried to keep the focus on the system. They pushed experience over excitement. They attempted to humble the rookie phenomenon by leaving her off the Olympic flight. But this latest move by a major broadcast partner makes one thing painfully clear. You can't stop a tidal wave with a fence. The narrative the coaches and selection committee tried to sell, that Caitlin Clark wasn't ready and needed to wait her turn, has been completely dismantled by the people who actually write the checks. If reports are accurate, the mood inside the Team USA camp has been explosive. The realization is setting in that their gold medals may carry less value to television networks than a single Caitlin Clark pregame routine. And to understand why this particular announcement triggered such a violent reaction, you have to look at the shifting power dynamics that have been quietly reshaping women's basketball for the past 6 months. This is no longer just a basketball story. It's a hostile takeover of the sports hierarchy. The tension began long before the NBC revelation, dating back to the Olympic roster announcement. Head coach Cheryl Reeve and the selection committee insisted the decision was purely basketball-related. Defense, chemistry, veteran experience. On paper, it sounded reasonable, but in reality, it felt far messier. Many fans saw it as gatekeeping. Analysts and insiders immediately warned that leaving the most popular female athlete on the planet at home was a marketing catastrophe. NBC, which holds the Olympic broadcast rights, was reportedly furious. They were counting on the Caitlin Clark effect to push viewership into uncharted territory. When she was left off the roster, executives were allegedly scrambling, questioning why the league and federation would deliberately undercut their own ratings. Still, the coaches stood firm. They won gold, and likely believed the criticism would fade. They thought the podium would validate the system and reinforce the idea that the rookie needed to learn her place. But that victory lap didn't last long. While the coaches celebrated a tactical win, the networks were studying the data, and the numbers told a different story. Olympic viewership was respectable, but it didn't come close to the frenzy surrounding a standard Indiana Fever regular season game. That reality laid the groundwork for what we're seeing now. With the new media rights deal valued north of $2 billion now in motion, NBC and its partners are reportedly shifting their strategy toward a Clark-centric future. Dedicated camera angles, documentary-style coverage, primetime scheduling dictated by her games, not standings. Regardless of team success, this represents a direct challenge to the traditional hierarchy coaches like Reeves spent decades building. From their perspective, the league should reward the best teams, not one individual. The network's response is blunt. We paid for superstar, and we're going to showcase the superstar. This shift strips power away from the coaches. They can bench her. They can leave her off national teams. They can allow physical play against her. But they can't stop the cameras from following her. That loss of control is what's fueling the reported anger. Coaches feel their authority is being overridden by corporate interests that value clicks and ratings over defensive schemes. And then there's a jealousy factor, an uncomfortable truth, but an unavoidable one. Veterans who spent 10 or 15 years grinding, playing overseas, and building this league piece by piece are watching a rookie walk in and dominate the spotlight. NBC's commitment to Clark reinforces the fear that everyone else is becoming a supporting character in her story. For a Team USA staff built on collectivism, that's a nightmare. How do you preach sacrifice when a media partner is rewarding individual stardom with unmatched exposure? The backlash isn't just emotional, it's existential. If a gold medal team doesn't headline, but the rookie who stayed home does, what is that gold medal worth in the marketplace? Money, as always, sits at the center of the conflict. Clark's presence accelerated charter flights, sponsorships, and league relevance. But the attention is unevenly distributed. NBC strategy positions Clark as the face of the entire operation, funneling endorsements and opportunities her way, while veterans risk being left behind. Some within the Team USA structure reportedly view this as a betrayal of meritocracy. They believe they earn prime-time exposure by winning. But television doesn't operate on merit. It operates on popularity. And the panic comes from realizing they can't compete with a phenomenon. They can win games. They can dominate opponents. But they can't beat the algorithm. Looking ahead to the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, again broadcast by NBC, the message is unmistakable. There is no scenario where Clark is left off a home-soil Olympic roster. This shift feels like a warning to the Federation. Adapt or be overruled. Coaches who once believed they held final authority are now confronting the reality that billion-dollar contracts carry more weight than clipboards. That realization cuts deep. No coach wants a TV executive influencing roster decisions. But when that executive controls billions, autonomy becomes an illusion. The balance of power is flipped. What once belonged to institutions now belongs to a single star. Everyone else is facilitating the broadcast. And that tension doesn't stop at boardrooms. We've already seen how resentment can spill onto the court through increased physicality. This media pivot risks intensifying that cycle. Coverage breeds resentment. Resentment breeds aggression. Aggression fuels ratings. It's a dangerous feedback loop. Coaches who see themselves as guardians of the game are watching it morph into reality television, and they despise it. But the audience is hooked. Add in off-season alternatives like the Unrivaled League, and Clark's leverage only grows. NBC wants Caitlin Clark content wherever it exists. If she builds her own ecosystem, traditional power structures lose relevance. By attempting to sideline her, the establishment may have pushed her toward independence. Fans see this as karma. After dismissive comments from legends and officials, NBC's pivot feels like market correction. The divide between basketball purists and paying viewers has never been wider. Coaches talk legacy. Fans want logo threes. At the center stands Cheryl Reeve, wearing dual hats and absorbing the backlash. To many fans, the snub felt personal. Now, with NBC effectively overriding her philosophy, it represents a symbolic defeat. This isn't a tantrum. It's the sound of an era ending. Coach-led dynasties are giving way to player-driven entertainment. The league survived for decades on subsidies and obscurity. It's only now, with Clark, that the economics finally make sense. NBC isn't sentimental. They're investing in return on investment. Fighting that reality is fighting capitalism, and capitalism doesn't lose. What we're witnessing is a paradigm shift. The old rules no longer apply. Caitlin Clark didn't ask to skip the line. The world pulled her forward. The NBC announcement is the scoreboard flashing the final result. The anger, the leaks, the closed-door arguments are simply the last gasps of an old order. The cameras have chosen their captain, and there's no rewriting that reality.